All right, my friends, let's have some fun with macro data. What I want to do is look at a treasury spread, the difference between two interest rates. And I want to look at the 10-2 spread. There's lots of reasons why we want to look at that one. The slope of that, the difference between those can give you a sense of how the yield curve is shaped. If you know your bond market and the connections to macro, it might signal where US economic activity is headed. I want to focus on the empirical stuff. So let's go and grab data. And two, let's open up a browser. As usual, we'll use Fred. So data, come on, Fred, and to spread. Now, first one that pops up is the 10-year constant maturity minus the 2-year constant maturity. So 10-year means 10 years to maturity. Treasury, the issuer. Constant maturity, if you remember, we were talking about this in some other settings where uh, Treasury will issue a piece of paper, a bond, and they'll say 10 years on it. So right now, if I buy it and it's issued, I have 10 years until I can redeem it. I could sell it on the secondary, but 10 years until I redeem it. Tomorrow, it's the same piece of paper, but it no longer has 10 years on it. Week after week after week after. Um, there's other times when the Treasury comes in with another piece of paper that also says 10 years. So I have different people floating around with these pieces of paper that have 10 years, but at any given point in time, maybe I have 9 years left on this. Maybe someone has 7 years left on theirs. The Treasury makes adjustments by weighting across assets of different maturities, as though everybody has a 10-year lifespan left. They do the same thing for 2 year. That's what constant maturity means. So take a peek at this. This is the history. You see there's a lot of variability. If I want to compute the average, let's say, well, the average right now is very different than it was at the peak of the post-COVID inflation, very different than it was right before COVID, very different than right after the Great Recession. So I could take an average across the full sample, but is that really representative of, within small neighborhoods, the typical activity in this Treasury spread? This is where the concept of rolling sample statistics come in. And again, we've worked on it, but I want to show you again. Let's copy that ticker right here. Boom, 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 boom. T10, Y2Y. And take a look in the notes. Spread between 10-year, 2-year. All right, so copy that. Let's go to Excel, paste that right in there. Now, let's zoom in. Okay, if you don't remember the structure, quick start. I want first the manipulation and then the frequency. Manipulation, manipulation. I don't want any manipulation. I just want Lin. If you don't remember that, go to data manipulations. Lin, no transform, just the levels, straight up. And let's use monthly. Let's use the average. And then let's grab the data, all of the data. So I'm going to leave the date blank. And you could peruse down and you see, look, I got a missing there. Why is that? Right now, it is 10/2/2025. So if it's tapping into its database, it's going to pull October, but I don't have the data yet for that. We don't have the 10-year treasury for the month as a whole. So that's NA. Lots of ways you could deal with this. You could make a clean by using if statements and then blank it out, or you could compute the averages by adjusting for if is NA. We've done that in other settings. I'm gonna go ghetto and just clear it out. Easy peasy. All right, so we're nice and clean. If you do the mean, I didn't mean to cross all this. If you don't remember, right? Click on the top one, Control, Shift, down arrow, and then close your parentheses, and that's the mean. But that mean does change, right? Again, think about this in small neighborhoods. It's different here, and there, and there. So let me see if I could actually structure this in a way that I have something that shows me the mean through time in small windows. Let's pick a 12-month window. So one, da, 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 da. Now, how did I know that was stopping at 12? I could count the months, but go over here. Look, see my cursor, count 12. So I'm going to do equals average. Remember, average is mean in mean, but the average is the mean in Excel. So That's the average over that period. Over that small window of time, that's the average spread of 1.2 percentage points. And it's positive, so that means the 10 years greater than the 2 year by 1.25-ish percentage points. Let's go one down. Let's copy that one down, one down. Okay, so now look at that. I dropped June and I added on the new June, 76, 77, respectively. It's a little bit higher. Well, I added on 1.15, that was greater than the one that I dropped, zero point 0.8. And I could just double click when you get the hash on the lower right hand corner, and you have all of those rolling averages. You can actually control shift down, good to go. You can see what that looks like. And this is the rolling average over 12-month periods. You could roll it over longer periods. We've done that in class. Or you could actually roll something different. We can roll, so this is the 12-month roll average, or we can do the 12-month roll standard deviation. Mhm. And you could roll the 12-month standard deviation on that raw series. And it's highlighted. You can go and you can plot that out and you can see, well, here, you know what? Let's even put some dates on that guy. Let's edit. And then we get the dates from where it starts, control shift down arrow, close that up, make it look pretty. So this is the rolling 12-month rolling standard deviation. You could see in the late 70s, early 80s, we had a lot more volatility, I'll call vol standard deviation. And you see that from the spikes over here. And then as we broke the back of this inflation, not saying that necessarily rates were lower, but the volatility was lower, followed by cursor. And then it started to repercolate around Y2K, Great Recession, and COVID. So that's the rolling mean in column C, rolling standard deviation in column D. You could roll over different periods as well. Let me show you just one more, one more, one more. Let's roll this over a longer period. So let's roll 24 periods. All right, let's do the standard deviation S over 24 periods. And then double click, drag that down. And let's add that in, click on it, chart design, select data, add another series. And we could roll that. This is a 24-month roll in sigma standard deviation, same thing, tomato, nerdy tomato. And you can see that they have a different structure to these as well. I could go ahead and I can label with legend about what each of these are. Okay. The initial spike over here, the orange line smooths it out a little bit, but these are taking more of that because it was over a little longer period where I had more of those extremes. All right, my friends, I hope that helps.